I'd like to open this City Commission meeting Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. I'd like to ask you all to please join us for this flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome Tom Werman of St. John Lutheran Church for the invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Living God, our Creator, you are above all and through all and in all. We give you thanks for the blessings of this day and for the ways that you have blessed our community with its beauty and with its resources. And we thank you as well for the blessing of each other. We pray now for your blessing upon this meeting. Grace our civic leaders with your spirit of wisdom, humility, courage, and peace, that they may promote the common welfare and hear the voices of all who reside in our community. Guide them in all of their decisions, that they may be faithful models of leadership for all of us. For to you belongs glory and dominion, now and forever. Amen.
Respectfully, Mayor Brooks, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session, and I'd like to read my motion if I could, just so everybody knows what it's about and the length of it. I would like to make a motion to the governing body to recess in an executive session for 20 minutes in order to consult with the city attorney regarding a notice of cease and desist and notice of claims received from legal counsel for P&L development pursuant to the exception for matters deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationships, specifically KSA 75-4319, subsection B, subsection 2, with the open meeting to resume in the commission room in 20 minutes.
I second your motion.
It's moved by Stu, seconded by Chuck. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, same. Okay. Recess into executive session. No votes were cast, no decisions were made. We're going to move on to public input, and I'd like to make a statement. Public input is solely intended to discuss matters that actually involve the city of Pittsburgh. Please limit any discussion to matters that involve the city of Pittsburgh. If you'd like to come up, state your name and address, and limit your time to 5 minutes. Anyone? All right. Closing public input. Move on to the consent agenda. Is there any items to be removed? Anyone? Nope. Seeing none. Consent agenda item A is approval of the January 11th, 2022 City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of staff recommendation to appoint Shane Kennar, Rick Martin, and Jeff Wilbur to first 3-year terms as members of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, effective immediately and to conclude on December 31st, 2024. Item C, approval of staff recommendation to appoint Connie Linder to a first 4-year term as a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, effective immediately and to conclude on December 31st, 2025. And item D, approval of the appropriation ordinance for the period ending January 25th, 2022, subject to the release of HUD expenditures when funds are received. And roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Don. All those in favor? Aye.
Oh, roll call
Or,
vote.
roll call, I'm sorry.
Brooks,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
McNay,
Yes.
Munsell,
Yes.
Sigley.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to special presentation. Land Bank Annual Report. Director of Housing and Community Development, Quentin Holmes, will present the Pittsburgh Land Bank Annual Report.
Okay, we look at the screen here, thank you. So the Pittsburgh Land Bank has been very successful over the past few years since it's been started. I'll start with, we've sold 39 properties in the Pittsburgh Land Bank, which is a pretty good feat.
Quentin,
Sorry.
could you back up a little and maybe explain the concept of the land bank?
Yeah, so I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So the Pittsburgh Land Bank is a separate legal entity from the city that's housed under the city that allows us to acquire and sell property. We get that property through a tax sale. We can purchase property. It can be donated. That's basically how that works. And the idea of it is to get the property back into some sort of productive use, whether that be commercially or residential. Some of the properties that we get are unable to be either. So when we do get rid of those, they become a yard, an extension of a yard for someone that maybe lives next door, because that property cannot be, it does not meet any setbacks for whatever zone it is in, or for anything to be built there. Any questions on that?
What is this electricity 117 North Broadway? What's that?
So that was a building that we had that at 117 North Broadway that had some water issue in there, and then also we needed electricity on there to be able to turn the lights on, to be able to show the property to those that were interested. So when the water issue was fixed, we had a fan in there that we needed to run to ventilate the property.
So do we sell it or we still own it?
It's sold,
Okay.
yeah. It's currently being renovated. Okay. So as you can see, our expenses this year were greater than our revenue. That is obviously not the plan, but that building specifically at 117 North Broadway was in need of some masonry repair that increased those expenses beyond what they normally would be. In our expenses, we have advertising, legal publications. We also do title work with that. Mowing, we have to maintain these properties, and we contract the mowing out. And then again, you see the electricity there. That was a kind of a one-off expense for that building for reasons I
If
explained.
somebody donates a piece of property with a structure on it that has to be demolished, Is that on the city or is the property owner?
That is actually negotiated at the meeting by the land bank board.
Okay,
So depending on what the situation is, the board would vote to decide either to take the property as is, negotiate a demo with that property owner, or require the property owner to demo before they donate.
so there's could be maybe shared cost, it sounds like, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't donate it, and that'd be entirely on the citizens to pay to have that building removed or whatever.
Yeah, and that's dependent upon the land bank board,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep. So far this year, or last year, sorry, sold 7 properties and acquired 19. Majority of those were acquired through our county tax sale. And then there, as you see here, 4 building permits were issued. 2 for residential, 1 for remodel commercial, and 1 for remodel residential. Sometimes we do get homes donated to the land bank that are within that remodel threshold of 50% of the value. So those are available to be remodeled. And then we have 6 projects that have not started, that are have been sold for whatever the agreement is, either residential or commercial. And 3 new residences were completed, and 1 residential remodel was completed last year. Any questions on that? No? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, moving on to special presentation B, Economic Development Quarterly Report. Director of Economic Development Blake Benson, Pittsburgh State University Executive Director of Operations, Business Development and Economic Engagement, Darrell Pulliam. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. I think I speak for Darrell when I first of all say, and I don't just say this because our contracts are up for consideration tonight, both Pittsburgh State and the Chamber greatly appreciate the partnership with the city of Pittsburgh and working with Darren and his team on a daily basis, and of course you as commissioners. This team approach to economic development is working, and we've got some good news, some good projects to tell you about tonight. First of all, couple of numbers that we use to really track the economic health of our community. First of all, the unemployment rate, you hear a lot about that. I think a lot of our local residents are unaware that in November, we set an all-time record low in terms of unemployment rate in Pittsburgh. That record was 2.5%. The December numbers came out last Friday. They've dropped down to 2.3%. So unemployment has never been lower than it is in Pittsburgh right now. So it's great if you're an employee. Obviously, for our business owners and HR directors that are looking for talent, that can be a challenge. But certainly, that's a good number, especially when you see it compared to the state and the federal unemployment rate. Pittsburgh is significantly lower. The retail trade pull factor there, that's one that makes Larissa happy. That's an indicator of how many shoppers your community is keeping or attracting as opposed to losing. If you have a number under 1, you're losing more shoppers than you're gaining. If it's over 1, then you're keeping more than you're losing. In 2005 is when Pittsburgh saw its retail trade pull factor go from under 1 to over 1. Anybody remember what happened around 2005? It's when the Home Depot shopping district opened. And so that was really a game changer, and obviously the city was a big leader in making that project happen. And ever since 2005, that number has continued to climb. So you see the numbers where they have been over the last 5 years. The most recent numbers in 2021 show that our retail trade pull factor is 1.9. So that means we are attracting or keeping almost twice as many retail shoppers to our community as we're losing to other communities. And obviously that's now being reflected in the sales tax collection. So wanted to make sure you were aware of those numbers. Another one, and I'll throw it to Daryl here in just a moment. This is a graph that was put together by Darren and the finance team to show the overall number and value of projects in our community since 2013. You can see it's well over $500 million, which for a community of our size is very impressive. Even more impressive, and I think the residents should be comforted by this, is just like your retirement portfolio, you want your economy to be diversified. So if you look at the pie chart there, the biggest piece of that pie is 18%, and that's the manufacturing and industry piece. So that's the largest piece. You can see how diversified it is, and so unlike some other economies across the state and the country, we're not so tied to one particular part of our economy that if it were to tank, that it would drag our entire local economy down with it. And I know that that's been a charge for us as a community to make sure that we do have that risk spread out, and I think it helps us our economy really avoid the ups and downs that you see in some other communities. I think this one, yeah, this one's
Okay,
yours.
all right, thanks, Blake. So today I'm going to focus on three particular areas, and the first one of those is the small business support that we function as through Pittsburgh State and the Small Business Development Center. And the three metrics that you see on the screen are really kind of what we gauge ourselves off of and our progress and our productivity. And so the first one of those is clients served in Pittsburgh. You'll notice that we've worked with 107 unique clients, and that's just specifically in Pittsburgh, and that ranges from everything from manufacturing companies to restaurants to small boutiques downtown. And the key metric there really is the fact that last year was a super challenging year, as we all know. And through COVID and through some of the challenges that we had, we still worked very effectively. And we were very helpful in a lot of those businesses really being able to remain open. And it's through the efforts of the Small Business Development Center and through the other efforts of our economic development contract that we were able to help secure a lot of those federal dollars that was coming back and forth. The second metric is the 958 hours. That's actually 958 hours of clocked counseling time that our counselors and our people in the Small Business Development Center spent with the actual clients and those folks here in Pittsburgh. And again, I would remind that those numbers are just in Pittsburgh. The SBDC of Southeast Kansas actually covers 12 counties, but these numbers are specifically for Pittsburgh. And then the capital investment that's in Pittsburgh, what we've tracked that our accountability in terms of touching and helping those businesses right now was $2.4 million for last year. So the SBDC is really kind of an unsung hero in our minds of the work that they do and the things that we do here in Pittsburgh, because you can go in as a fresh idea of trying to start a business, an existing business, or trying to grow a business, but our counselors and our team members are able to sit down and develop business plans, cash flow projections, and really put together a comprehensive plan that really instills the fact that these businesses can go out and make it work, honestly. So that's really the key facts of the SBDC, and I think that's the first one of the three I want to talk about today.
And often, as Daryl said, the Small Business Development Center does a great job. Often we'll be approached by a potential small business owner that will be asking about revolving loan fund assistance from the city, but they need some work with their business plan, or some part of their plan is not quite shored up. We'll send them down to the Small Business Development Center. They'll help it really beef it up and then bring it back before the EDAC considers it. So it's a great partnership there. A couple of specific projects that were significant for 2021. First of all, the Community Health Center. I don't have to tell Commissioner McNay about this because I'm sure she sees this construction every day when she drives by it. This is the medical residency program and the building that will house that at the Community Health Center. This is a $6 million project that will enable 12 medical residency programs at the end of their education to finish it out here in Pittsburgh. And the numbers show that a large percentage of doctors end up practicing within 50 to 100 miles of where they do their residency. So this will help our local healthcare community attract and retain medical professionals to our community. And I believe they are set for the first class to be here by August of this year. So a lot of progress being made on that one. Another one is, you're probably aware that U.S. Awards purchased Pitcraft Printing last year, And for a while, they were still operating them on separate campuses, but the Del Sega family thought that it would make more sense to bring them under one campus. So they will be adding on to their location on Washington Street, which is where U.S. Awards has been for so many years, and then that makes the Pitcraft building available. They've reached out to us to look for folks that may be interested in either leasing or buying that. It's an attractive building, and so we'll be working to do that. But obviously, great to see a family-owned business here in Pittsburgh that's operated for so many years to be growing and continue expanding here.
Great, thanks. So I wanted to give a quick update on the Foundry operations over at Block 22. And really the two significant things I want to talk about first is the Root Coffee House. I think most people are aware that underwent an ownership change and a management change. And we're happy to report we have another local family that purchased that establishment. And we're actually integrating them into the overall Block 22 team, and there's a lot of collaboration. And the important thing to think about there is really what that does to enhance that corner, and what that does to increase the collaboration with people, community-based, that feel welcome to come in, tying that into the rest of the operation at Block 22, and with the patio activities that we have planned for the spring and fall. So it really just brings a lot more people down to that corner and allows us to really utilize that facility more effectively. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the Limelight Marketing, which has been one of our anchor tenants. And we really operate under the philosophy of incubate, grow, and move. That's really how we focus our processes on how we help businesses. We want to help incubate new ones. We want to take existing ones and help them grow. And then we want to help find ways to move them back out into our community, into existing buildings or new buildings, both locally downtown and out in our industrial parks. And we're happy to report that they're in the middle of purchasing a building, doing a renovation, and they will be moving in about 6 months. And the beauty of that is we've already started a waiting list, and we've put the cast call out for the next round of businesses that will take up those office spaces that currently are being occupied by that business. And so it really brings us back to that incubate, grow, move philosophy that we're trying to instill. And then the Block 22 Pittsco Idea Shop, you've heard me report on that a couple of times. I'm actually happy to report that we did hire a new Idea Shop manager. That person is now in place for a couple of weeks. It's been a long process. We certainly didn't plan on COVID having a setback there, but it did. So now we're in the process of putting the planning and programming together, and we'll be launching a full schedule here in early spring on that particular part of the operation. So.
Project that we're excited about headed into next year, and of course those that attend or watch city commission meetings are familiar with this project that really Darren had a huge hand in making this one a reality. The acquisition of close to 200 acres just north of Pittsburgh. It's now a part of Pittsburgh as the home of the Monty Industrial Park. We were getting a lot of inquiries from economic development prospects looking for property, large tracts of property that were served by rail, and we didn't have anything to offer them. This does have rail, so we're also now working with Watco, who's building what's called a transload facility. That's a facility that will allow rail, basically products to be railed in and then offloaded to trucks. So that's extremely attractive. There's nothing like that in this area. Not only attractive for recruiting new businesses and new manufacturers there, but for a lot of our existing companies like Jake's and Leisure Time that currently are having to rail their product to Kansas City and then truck it down to Pittsburgh. It's extremely expensive to truck it from Kansas City down to Pittsburgh. Now they'll be able to basically rail it to within a mile of their Pittsburgh facility. So it'll be great for not only attraction, but also retention as well. So excited to get to work on that as 2022 starts.
Great. The final thing I want to talk about today here is if you look at the screen, you'll see a picture of the Tyler Research Center, which also houses the National Institute for Material Advancement and the Kansas Polymer Research Center. Now, I'm sure most of you have probably driven by that building. You've looked at it when you go down South Roush, and you look over there, and you probably wonder what's going on inside that place, because most people honestly don't know. So we're in the process of changing that, honestly. So I want to give you a quick rundown of some of the things and the way that that building is funded and some of the things that we're currently doing. So from a funding scenario, we really operate in a capacity of we have to be sustainable on our own. We don't get a lot of money from the university to fund that actual facility. It's primarily funded by our partners, which is from a federal, state, and a commercial standpoint. We work with partners such as NIST, EDA, the NSF, so that would be the National Institute of Standards Technology, the Economic Development Association, and the National Science Foundation. Those are all federal partners. In this last year, we've secured pretty close to about $3 million on the federal side, or $4 million on the federal side. From a state perspective, we work with organizations like Kansas Corn, Kansas Soybean, Missouri Soybean. Again, in 2021, we had about $450,000 of grants there. And then on our commercial customers, between the National Mattress Recycling Group, the Checker Spot Company, which is a California-based organization, and Honeywell, which is national, that's another $3 to $4 million probably. But the significant piece to that is we're back in a growing mode in that facility. That facility was built in 2007. We've had unbelievable work and commercialization that's went through there, but most people aren't aware of it because of the confidentiality when you're trying to develop new materials and you're trying to take things and run it through a patenting system and you're trying to take them out and license them to sell. But what's happened is in the past 15 years is we've had a lot of outdated equipment, we've had a lot of outdated processes, and we've had to go in and make some significant reinvestments in infrastructure, equipment, and processes and personnel. So that's really a focal point for us right now at the university in the terms of we believe we have the possibility to commercialize and really bring that thing up to a $10, $15 million level. And that's really where we're working is how do we expand that and how do we do it? We have a plan, we've sat down, we've spent a lot of time in the last 14, 16 months, and we're really deploying that plan right now. So a big piece of my time is being spent back out at the research center where we are updating that equipment. Part of the money we got from the EDA was established for a fund to go in and update that. So it's not real easy to update equipment when you don't have money. So $2 million that we got from them folks really doesn't buy you a completely new building full of equipment because the average price starts at about $60,000 and goes up to about $400,000 on some of the instruments. So you can see very quickly that it takes a fair amount of money to be able to update that facility. We're doing it, we feel very strong about it, and it's really positioning us for our growth that we're trying to obtain there. In terms of the new department, so we're launching a new revenue center for industrial testing. It's something we've already been doing for years, but we recognize that there's a lot of commercial companies out around the country that can't afford to have the kind of the testing equipment that they need to be able to get the testing results that they need. So we've established that opportunity and we've hired a new analytical services manager and we have that person in place and we're starting to escalate those testing services. Additional new personnel, we've established a facility manager in that facility. We've hired a couple of new scientists. We're looking at some new postdocs. But the current status is we're really on a mission to expand and grow and bring that to the true potential that it really has. And I feel really strong and feel really good about that. The last thing I will say is the facility was originally designed with a 2,500 square foot facility in the back of the building to actually be an incubator for a company. Well, I'm glad to report that we're currently in negotiations with our first commercial tenant, which is already a client of the facility doing about $400,000 a year in research. But now they've come to us and they want to actually establish a presence here. So we are in negotiations to leasing them a piece of the building as our first commercial tenant. And really what that leads to is they want to build an additional manufacturing opportunity that we're looking at collectively from the economic development standpoint to bring them to Pittsburgh, which would bring great paying scientific jobs and great manufacturing for economic development. So. And so the last thing I wanted to focus on is if you've watched the news lately or the newspaper, we're actually getting quite a bit of media right now. And that's really by design. We're out attracting that because we've done such a job of keeping it a well-kept secret that we really need to expose this a little bit. And we need the community, we need you folks as leaders of the city to at least understand some of the things we're doing in that facility, but we really need the community to understand some of the things that we're doing in there as well. So you'll see here lately on KSN, they've been running several stories. The Joplin Globe and the Morning Sun has had some really nice articles and representation for us, so.
Okay, we're almost done, I promise. This is something, just kind of a reminder of something we did last spring and that Kim and I were just talking about doing again coming up is a job fair, especially with the unemployment rate being so low. We had a very successful job fair at Memorial Auditorium last spring. We'll be looking to do that again, especially with potential new employers coming to the community. We want to give them the opportunity to get their workforce as well as anybody else who's currently looking, which includes most of our businesses. So I believe that's it. Don't have a slide for it, but obviously you're all aware of a project that we've been working on for quite a while that is pretty close to being able to be announced. We're excited about that. But none of this happens without the support of the city, and we appreciate the opportunity that we've been given to be a part of the economic development team. And I think Daryl and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. The space that was Sonder and Company and Juicy's, are there any interest in those?
There is, and actually what we did was both that space and the Juicy's up front is we've asked the SBDC to help us with that endeavor, and so we put the call out for any potential interested businesses. I believe we have 6 interested candidates right now, and they're all submitting a business plan, and then the SBDC is working through cash flow projections with them so that we can make a real, so that we can help make the right choices about who goes in there. But that's the current plan right now.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say that I was invited to a tour to the Polymer Research Center. As some of you know that chemistry was my first love. I want to tell you, this is a fantastic place. If you can ever go through there, and you have, there are some secrets that have to be held, you ought to go through and see what these people are doing. It's absolutely incredible that that's happening in southeast Kansas.
Yes, we were very fortunate to have Commissioner Sigley stop by and visit with us, and we would extend the invitation to any councilor member or any community member. Our doors are really open. There are things we can't tell you about, and we're not going to tell you the secret sauce on the formulations of some new material we're developing. But it's really important that the community understands what we have and the resource that we have here. So I thank the commissioner for coming, and again, welcome anybody to come see us.
And Daryl, students, PSU students are integrated into those.
They absolutely are, and thank you, Commissioner McNay, for mentioning that, because one of our superstars, we actually launched a research group, and Dr. Ram Gupta now has over 20 students that participates in his research group, and he's currently drawing in a couple of $1 million of funding. But the unique part of that is those 20 plus students are there on a daily basis, and they're getting real world application experience, which is pretty phenomenal with what's going on in the building. Any more questions?
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you again.
See you soon. All right. Moving on to consider the following. The Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Services Agreement. Consider an approval of an economic development services agreement between Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and the City of Pittsburgh, in which the Chamber will perform the services related to the location and retention of industrial, manufacturing, and retail businesses in the city for the period beginning January 25th, 2022, and concluding on December 31st, 2022.
Mayor,
Move to
Commissioners, hey,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
just going to say, this is our annual contract with the Chamber. It's kind of self-explanatory. You saw the report after the fact, but we're thrilled with it. It's worked out really well. It's something we can be proud of, and recommend your approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any changes this
Move to
year?
approve.
Don has a question. Are there any changes this year?
Any changes in the
Blake's
agreement?
taller,
All the
Blake's a
same.
little taller.
Same?
But no, it's is the exact same dollar amount, as same scope of services, and other than his improved building, which I don't think we have any money going towards that, it's all the same.
I have a question, I don't know if it's for you or Blake, Darren, on this workforce development. It says expand childcare options in Pittsburgh. How are we doing on that?
Well, we are, in some ways, like everything else, we're at the mercy of the private sector, really. We have some very good anchors with the Family Resource Center and some other options, but Blake is a huge advocate anywhere we are with regards to unemployment being at a record low and the labor shortage that we're seeing across the country. So we encourage several meetings. We've been part of them. We've met with several of the entities that already are in that business and talk about growth and how we can do that. But we're definitely on the sidelines on this one, helping to support, because it's not something the city can be involved in. And Blake's actively working with the people that are involved in it, and some of them that are interested in it that aren't involved in it yet. So I think it has traction, but it's going to take somebody to stepping up and just, there's a huge gap, and I know Don's waiting over there to answer, to weigh in on it. But yeah, it's a great question. It's a critical piece of where we're trying to be, which is in
Exactly.
a growth mode.
Do you want to add to that, Don, or?
Well, Darren's right. Through IP 2030, I think it's how Blake got sucked into this in terms of childcare being a workforce development. But yeah, I mean, I'm the board president for the center. We are looking at an expansion project. There's a physician in town that's looking at creating a childcare facility. The problem is when you take care of infants and toddlers, you have to have subsidy, and that's the barrier. So we all are going to have to get creative, and even if both of these entities that I mentioned expand, it'll make a dent in wait lists, but it probably, as we grow, will not completely provide childcare. So it will probably be a continual.
Well, I think if that gets off the ground, that will certainly help bring employment to our employers that need that, because childcare is very important.
And I would say if you interact with your state or federal lawmakers, just tell them that, subsidies for infant and toddler care are needed. Whatever role they think the government has in early childhood development, economic development, this is where they could put money, and it would make a huge difference.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's moved by Ron,
Second.
seconded by Stu. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, moving on to B, Pittsburgh State University Business Development and Innovation Services Agreement. Consider approval of a business development and innovation services agreement between Pittsburgh State University and the City of Pittsburgh, in which PSU will provide support to the city to effectively help create and attract new businesses, industries, and manufacturing concerns to the city, as well as more effectively promote the expansion and growth of existing business industries already located in the city for the period beginning February 8th, 2022, and concluding on January 31st, 2023. Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Ron, seconded by Don. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to item C, insurance brokerage service. The staff will provide a verbal recommendation regarding the selection of an insurance agent broker to market and provide competitive quotes on a variety of property and liability coverage, as well as provide in-depth professional services, including but not limited to risk management consulting, claims management, loss control services, auto liability, auto physical damage, general and professional liability, and public officials' liability losses. Is there any? Oh, Larissa, hi.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. In late November, we requested proposals for insurance broker service for our property and casualty policy. After reviewing those proposals a few weeks ago, we held our interviews with our top 3 candidates, and we had several of our departments represented on that panel. And tonight, we are asking to recommend staying with Ryan Insurance, who is our current insurance broker.
Who is it?
Ryan Insurance.
Was there an increase in,
Their yearly fee went from 40,000 to 44,000. It hadn't increased for 3 years, so,
and was that comparable to the other two that you interviewed?
yes.
Any other
No
questions?
further questions, I move to approve.
Moved by Chuck,
Second?
seconded by Dawn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item D. Consider the following. Ordinance number S 1083. Consider adopting ordinance number S 1083, amending ordinance number S 1076, fixing the salary and compensation of the officers and employees of the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas. Hi, Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Earlier today, we heard from the Logic Compensation Group, who came and presented with our finance team regarding the compensation study that had been done for the city of Pittsburgh that began back in May, and that has led us here today to our new salary ordinance. And the main changes from the old salary ordinance to the new ones include new pay grade classifications and ranges that align with the compensation study that was reviewed earlier today. And then from the old one to the new one, job codes have been eliminated from the salary ordinance. And the reason for that is after talking to the team about job codes, they weren't necessary as part of the ordinance. They're just a 3-digit placeholder number for our time management system, so they weren't needed with the salary ordinance. And then pay range midpoints have been added. So before in the ordinance, we just had a minimum and a maximum in a range. And now there's a clear midpoint that's in there for a quick reference for us when we're aligning salaries, so we can reference that. So those are some of the main changes. The ranges have all been adjusted to what the competitive market is. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
If there's no questions, I move to make a motion to amend Section 3 of ordinance number S 1083.
Amend it to what?
To amend the Section 3 City Manager Authority. The city manager hereby empowered to employ qualified persons to fill any department head position at an annual salary at no more than the maximum amount allowed herein, and to employ qualified persons to fill any position other than department head on an annual salary or hourly wage at no more than the maximum amount allowed herein. Employee salaries and wages may be increased by the city manager at reasonable intervals until the maximum amount is reached, and as may be allowed and paid from time to time. The city manager is further empowered to allow salary incentive payments in addition to the base salary amounts contained herein and as authorized by the city commission for such items as fire department first responder, EMT certifications, public works license, operator certificates, and police education and special assignment duties, provided that such incentive payments do not increase employee pay more than 5% above the maximum amount showed herein. I want to amend that and delete the section where employee salaries and wages may be increased by the city manager at reasonable interviews until the maximum amount is reached and may be allowed and paid from time to time. I know over the years that section of this city manager authority has created morale issues with employees when we schedule or budget for 2% or 1%, whatever it might be, and some employees are given additional increases. And I think with the new ordinance or new study we have come up with, and Doc made a point that earlier in the presentation, if this is left in there, will it not create morale issues, I believe, and further complicate the process, because each employee now knows that we're going to raise their wages per this study, and I just feel like this should be removed.
Darren, could you share with us your responsibilities under the charter? I know you don't have it memorized, but, I mean,
With regard, just,
personnel, your authority?
Well, yeah, I don't have it memorized.
Okay, sorry.
Hire, basically, hire, fire, and pay a workforce that gets the job done in a nutshell.
It seems like, and I'm going back from the work session that we had earlier, it sounded like it's a whole team approach. It's a management team of the city on any decisions on pay raises, or was I mistaken on that, or is that is that something different from what you're talking about, Chuck?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but this, it says specifically city managers may do that. And like I said, over the years, I haven't voted for this because of that. I feel like it creates a morale issue.
By amending it, does that take him out of the equation completely, or what does that do?
Well, what it does is it takes our ability as a city to recruit and retain personnel. You've taken away any flexibility by staff. So I would not support removing it. I think that I've not ever seen any evidence that our city manager has abused that.
I feel like we just went through a lot of time and effort, and by we, I mean the city employees, the city staff, and the consulting group that we consulted with on this to get us in line with where we need to be, and I think we have a pretty good plan moving forward, so I would want to stick with that. I wouldn't be in favor of amending anything at this point unless there's some evidence that says we need to, not based on historical stuff necessarily.
Does not the new contract or the new ordinance, when it's implemented fully, kind of do away with that anyway? Does it not just ascend above that particular type of thing? Kind of takes that away from the city manager to some extent.
So do we need to leave that in there, or?
I don't think it's gonna make any difference either way,
Okay.
even if you take it out.
All right.
And you're talking about the second sentence?
Yeah.
The first one's kind of long, but you're talking about,
Employee salaries and wages may be increased by city manager at reasonable interviews until the maximum amount is reached and may be allowed.
so has this always been the same wording for years and years and years?
I believe so.
And since we haven't had a pay study in all this time, and now hopefully, or 15 years or whatever, this will take care of that?
Believe it. I just don't feel like after we went through this whole effort of doing this, I don't see that our city manager is gonna circumvent that by changing that all up after we, Darren, I'd welcome any comments from you on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's keep in mind, the pay study we just did was strategic. It was meant to do two things. It was meant to retain employees and to make sure that we have a competitive salary for employees across the board, but specifically to the ones that are hard to fill in certain departments. The ability to, over a 12-month period, adjust compensation in areas where we may think it's necessary in line with HR and finance, I think is one of the main duties of the city manager and the city administration. To think that you're going to put in a tool that's going to right-size everything in one day, that's going to last 12 months and take into account the market and things happening, I think would be restrictive. I don't think that we give out raises willy-nilly, but I'm already thinking that one of the things we didn't mention in the pay study was the pay study is one tool, and it's one thing that we're going to do to implement to try to correct a huge oversight that we've had for a number of years. But managing the city and not having the ability to pay people, to motivate them, to show your appreciation for them, I think would be a mistake, and I think it's an important tool that any manager would have. And, yeah, I think that the fact that we are going to weekly be sitting down and looking at pay with the HR and finance team should give anybody that thinks that I'm just out there whipping money out to my friends and favorite employees doesn't happen. But I think it's a very necessary tool that you need to manage the workforce of 300 people and over the course of 12 months.
I don't want to go around Chuck's, I know there's a motion on the floor, but I would move to approve the ordinance as it is.
Well, since you all are in that mindset, I would vote to approve this because I think we have done this salary survey. It's gonna take care of all the employees, and I would not vote against what we've accomplished.
So are you removing your motion?
Well, it wasn't second, so it won't go anywhere.
Okay.
So are you
Amending?
being the first order then? And then he'll be the second?
Whoever wants. to
If
make
Chuck's
one.
didn't have a second, then I would move to approve it as stated in the agenda.
Okay, moved by, or do you have something else, Doc? Okay,
Did somebody second it?
Chuck did.
Okay.
Somebody else, no,
No, no,
I said I would vote in favor of
favored
it.
for, okay, is there a second?
Second, or Ron, rock, paper, scissors. We're fighting
Moved by
over it.
Stu, double second here. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you again to everybody with the city to figure that out.
Yes.
Well, and thanks to you guys for giving us the opportunity to get it fixed.
Okay, let's see. Item E, city manager's goals and objectives. Consider the city manager's goals and objectives for the year 2022.
In regards to our once a month, I don't know if you want to put a schedule together or,
Sure. Was that something Henry was gonna explain, or was it something you just wanted me to read, as far as the goals we came up with?
I can certainly address those. Let me get to the right page here.
121?
yeah, yes.
I think Tom was just asking in particular with that,
Yeah.
how we were gonna facilitate
That.
our monthly meeting, or our,
Or, I guess we could draw and go
Yeah.
from there.
Or, I don't know if Tammy wouldn't mind just putting a schedule
Yeah.
together. Maybe for 10 months, the next 10 months, we each take a month, put Chuck last,
Yeah.
maybe by then.
Yeah, I won't be available to,
yeah, we'll put.
do any long walking around the tracks or anything, but,
You can invite
I'll see
people,
what I can fit into my schedule.
you can
All right.
invite people here.
So you'll take care of that? Okay, that was, let's see here. Once per month, community visit with designated commissioner. Tammy will make a schedule for that. Re-implement department head updates. That, I guess, was a thing in the past, and it kind of got away, so we're gonna come back with that. And then present a reorganization plan at a working day. So it'll be sometime before the.
Before the budget.
Before the budget, okay. So that's usually in May or somewhere in there?
Just month per month community visit with a designated.
That's what they was just.
We already talked about
Tammy's
that.
trying to set up a schedule.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I thought this was a walk around.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I will ask something here though, Darren, this citywide cleanup. Is that scheduled for 9/5 of 2022? September
No,
5th?
that's any date on here is a date to have it done by.
Okay, okay.
That's probably gonna be, after talking to Matt, that's probably gonna be something that's gonna change a little bit in how it was done. It was done on one day this year. It may be more appropriate to spread it out over a couple of days and do white goods one day, maybe mattresses one day, and not just have the whole staff in a torrential rainstorm running around trying to, move soggy mattresses. But yeah, that would be the designated completion date to have it done by September 5th.
Do we have to vote on that? On-
No,
No.
on his
On
her
goals.
goals, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Yes,
would-
approve or disapprove, yes.
I would move that we approve the manager's goals for the year.
Moved by Stu, second? By me. Okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on, non-agenda reports and requests. Darren?
Yeah, we just have a couple of follow-ups from the last public input session and special session. The two, most of them seem to fall into a general category of stuff that didn't seem like it was necessarily city business, but with regards to the crash gate, I've asked Matt to come in and give a few more details because we were kind of caught off guard as far as answering a question on that. I don't think we answered that question very well. And then we had one other one. Matt, do you mind?
So as part of the agreement, there was to be a crash gate put up. That has, the RID allows for reimbursable. We have invoiced the developer for the materials that we installed to put that crash gate up. You know, throughout the process, we did have barricades at both ends of Lou Martin Drive, which people were driving around, and thus we put up the cables across there to help also deter that, and then satisfy the need of a crash gate to have that once the first house was completed.
Is
So
that what the final product's gonna look like, what it is now?
So, yes, in the fact that, of what it is, knowing the fact that it's still a temporary,
Right.
because of the phases. I mean, it's not a long, I mean, it was never designed to be, it's always been a temporary crash gate.
Serves a purpose.
Depending on the phases of, when the phases of construction go in place. But at the moment, it is. We're trying to figure out an option to try and highlight the cable with some additional markings outside of the flagging tape that we put on the cable, just to make people aware of that. So, other than that, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the plan, to leave it as it is, so people don't drive around and go driving through the dirt to get onto the streetway.
Thank you.
And the one point of confusion may have been the RID document has the crash gate listed as $50,000. And so I think the idea was, did we put in the current gate and that Mickey's going to be able to receive $50,000 of RID payments in the future? And that obviously, the only thing he'd be reimbursable for would be the
invoice that we sent for
his
materials.
cost.
Yeah,
So
the cost.
that was the last point of clarification, but thanks, Matt. Now, finally, there was a question regarding the plat. So we've asked our city engineer and Rod to respond to the confusion around the plat.
Hi, I'm Pete Earls, owner of Earls Engineering. This is Rod Zinn, owner of Cornerstone. Both of us have approximately 40 years of experience with platting and engineering. And so basically, we just wanted to cover this. Rod was the surveyor of record at Cornerstone on this project. And basically, the difference between a preliminary and final plat, minor changes are not surprising, I guess. That it happens in this case. It was basically 5 lots to 4, and what they did was found out that between the preliminary and the final plat, that one of those lots was so small it was unbuildable. And so your choice was to adjust that lot before the final plat, or let it go through and split that lot after the fact. The county is not real thrilled with splitting lots. It's completely legal. So it was simply a matter of a line change in order to allow an easier settling of lots once it was done. Is not major, it's not unusual. The idea of a minor correction, it was done on the 8th and sent to the city. Cameron decided to, for one reason or another, just to keep it with the packet that was already done. Chose not to bring it up, not sure why. But again, it wasn't a major correction. It's not an unusual correction. And then the actual final plat was the one that was actually filed and used. Rod, did I say anything else?
Pretty much said everything. I know that when we looked at the size of the lots, there was some communication on the size of the houses for those lots. Those 5 lots created a narrower frontage, and by distributing it amongst 4 lots, it gave them a wider frontage. And if you see the lots today, actually somebody bought 2 of the lots and stuck their house right in the center of it. So, you know, that could have been a lot line adjustment. He's gonna ask for a lot combination probably down the road, which happens administratively. It'll happen with planning and zoning, and we'll make it happen. I mean, it happens all the time. Preliminary plat is just that. It's preliminary. It's telling the city, this is what we think the roads are gonna do. This is what we think the storm is. This is what we think the water's going to do. The sanitary sewer, curb and gutter. Tells you how many lots we think that we're going to get in there for what we've got. It's preliminary. That's exactly what it means. When you get to final, that's the final document. That's recorded with the state. That's recorded with the county. That's recorded from there on. This property was owned by the city at that time. I did send the information on the 6th actually. I had sent the information in and asked that it be put in the commissioner's packets. That was in the email chain that you have and everybody's had. And then it just didn't get put on the city in the commissioner's packets on that date, but it was asked to be in the commissioner's packets for that date, because there was a lot of communication back and forth. My communication is definitely with the city planning and zoning and all the respective departments to make sure that everything that's on the plat is up to ordinances, is up to guidelines, it's up to regulations. Even the email that was put here on the 11th was my email to Dexter with planning and zoning, asking about making sure we were following the building setback lines from 25 to 30. I know that the residents weren't able to read that, but that's what that email said, was that we were trying to follow the regulations. So there's nothing underlying that I think was going on with this plat. It was just something that happened administratively through the communication of the people that are responsible, which was between planning and zoning, the city, the developer, and myself.
And the one thing I think that I gleaned out of the last meeting is the plat that was approved, the final plat that was approved by the city commission was on July 10th. And the plat that you sent over on the 8th is the one that for whatever reason, Cameron submitted the most up-to-date plat and dated it July 10th. So it looked like, because the one they approved, I believe, was the one with 5, but they wouldn't have brought it back to change it to 4 anyway. But I think the date and the timing of it made it look, I think that's probably where the confusion came. If anybody, the person that was, I'd be more concerned if we were adding land outside of the plat and expanding it or adding lots, but it definitely, I think the date and the timing is probably where
Yeah,
we
it
can do
didn't
better.
change, the boundary didn't change, the roadway easements, right-of-ways, none of that stuff changed, utilities didn't change, so nothing really affected the city other than it went from, say, 60 lots to 59. And like I say, it was what we would consider a minor change of the plat. How it ended up that the city didn't see the correct one, I don't know. But there was just a very few days in between, and they brought in the old one.
Thank you.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion on that. That's all I've got.
Okay, all right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Chuck, anybody second?
Second.
Seconded by Don. We're adjourned.